the thing that always cracks me up, being that I work in social media, is how bad they are at taking photos. Like, the lighting is shit. The angles are crap. Come on, take a decent photo.
Yeah.
Sometimes their faces, I'm like, you're going to reveal your identity? What if this gets shared?
Yeah.
So there's logistical, there's some production work that, I would maybe recommend.
Okay.
Lovely you.
Devin is 35. She lives in Boston and works in sports journalism. Devin, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited. I love talking about myself.
Perfect. Yeah, so I'm good. You'll fit right in, okay? So you were nominated by your friend Amelia, who, just gushed about you.
Amelia is the best. She's my friend from home. We grew up together. We've known each other since preschool, I want to say, and she's just awesome. She's my biggest cheerleader, and I am her biggest cheerleader. I think we were chatting before this, and I told you the story about how she submitted me once for at my place of work in publishing to an advice columnist that I work with all the time back when I had that job. And she came over to my desk and she's like, do you know that your friend just submitted a letter about you? She thinks that you should start dating more. I don't think it ended up getting published because it was too close to the source, but it cracked me up.
So do you feel any pressure? Was there ever a point where you felt this external pressure to start dating?
Not at all. And sometimes I wonder, like, is there something wrong with me that I don't feel that societal pressure? I think the only sort of pressure that I think I would ever feel as a woman, I love kids. And I always thought I really wanted them and needed them. And I think biologically that can be a pressure that is very real and not necessarily societal. But it's really funny. The second I had nephews, I was like, wait a minute, could this scratch that itch? I'm obsessed with them. I take them out all the time. I pretend they're my children. People will compliment me and be like, oh, your sons are so cute. And I'm like, thank you.
Thanks so much.
Yeah. And then they cry and you get to return them. And it's just like this, and you get to be the fun aunt. And I always say, I'm going to like come in, I'm going to rile up your children or like rile up your dogs, borrow your kids, return them. And I kind of love being in that place. It's really fun. Like I don't discipline them. I don't ever want to discipline them. That's not my place. I didn't pop them out. So I really like being like this, like fun, cool aunt.
Recently has come to my attention that maybe I'm not as fun to a 9 and 11-year-old as I thought I was.
See, so mine are 3 and 6. And I think, that's something I could face too. There's going to be this period where they don't think I'm as cool as I think I am, and that's going to be crushing.
It's going to be a dark day.
It's going to be dark. I'm not prepared.
You should just set up safeguards now.
Yes.
For the future.
Well, I'll call you too when I'm feeling sad because you will have gotten through to the other side.
Yeah, I am, man. I mean, trying to stay at their level has required me to learn new things, and they're boys. So I've had to learn about Fortnite. Yeah, you heard of Fortnite? I don't get it, but yeah.
It's going to be so different to sort of measure that difference, I think, and grow up with them as they learn those things and encounter those things, knowing that I would have been a lunatic if we were allowed on Instagram and TikTok at that age.
Yeah. Who knows what it'll look like in the future when you're nephew. You said you have nephews, right?
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
when
both
they're
boys.
older.
Yeah,
I have a feeling you'll still be really cool to them though.
I hope so.
So you never felt that pressure, which is great because I think for one reason or another, women, in their 30s do feel that pressure.
Hmm.
The fact that you don't, do you think that puts you in a really good position for dating now that you've decided you want to maybe start dating?
I think so. I think it gives me a better outlook. I think that I don't think of myself as like being on the clock, whereas that's what I see in some of my friends, and that they're going on like 3 dates a week, and really it's a job in and of itself. It feels like work.
Yeah.
Um, I've always been the more sort of, I prefer to meet people organically, and I prefer to meet people sort of IRL versus the apps. I have the apps. I think when I'm swiping, I it feels to me like I'm playing a game of cards. Like these people aren't real to me. Like it's this like gamified experience, and they're not like jumping off the page and talking to me. Um, and there's like messages here and there back and forth, but it's never really turned into anything meaningful for me. And so that's why I've always just had more luck bumping into people organically, being out doing the things that I'm already doing, and meeting people that way. But for that reason, a lot of these encounters have gone in the not serious direction, and the sort of hookup culture one night stand type of direction. And um, I'd like to graduate from that. I'd like to stop being Peter Pan at this age of 35, and I'd like to have a graduation ceremony where I sort of like pass the baton, and I wear a cap, and I switch the tassel, and formally bid adieu to this part of my youth that I've held on to.
You heard it here first. Devin is the creator of the graduation from just hooking up, having a good time, nothing serious, easy
Yeah.
breezy, to, okay, ready for something maybe deeper.
So I'm actively practicing that. I maybe like a month or so ago, I was texting this guy who we actually met on St. Patrick's Day, which if you're familiar with St. Patrick's Day in Boston, it's a wild time. And I think we like kissed or something. That's all we did. And we had been texting, and he was like trying to send like photos and stuff. And I think the old me would have just gone with that. And the new me said, when he asked for a photo, I said that would require an upgrade to the date package. And I was so proud of myself.
I'm obsessed. Oh my, upgrade to the
I
date
mean,
package.
did it work? Have we gone on a date? No.
You're on the basic plan. You need to get on the pro plan.
Exactly.
Love that. Okay, so when you say pictures, I can use my imagination here.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Still don't understand why men do this.
No, and never once have I asked for one. I think they're always in very unsolicited formats. It hasn't been as bad for, normally I'll at least be in conversation with someone. I've talked to people who get those right off the bat when they swipe on someone on the apps. And that just feels like something you didn't sign up for.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it might do you think it would throw them off actually if someone requested a dick pic? Like right off the bat, like, hey, can I get a photo of your phallus?
Right.
I think they would just be scared.
I'll do a case study on that.
Do you mind?
I got you.
I would love to know.
Yeah, nothing to lose.
Okay.
The thing that always cracks me up, being that I work in social media, is how bad they are at taking photos. Like the lighting is shit. The angles are crap. Come on, take a decent photo.
Yeah.
Sometimes their faces, I'm like, you're going to reveal your identity? What if this gets shared?
Yeah.
So there's logistical, there's some production work that, I would maybe recommend.
Okay. I like it. This is really, I think, helpful, going to be helpful for men.
A PSA.
Yeah. A PSA. So I'm very curious, this graduating from the type of dating you've been doing to the type of dating you want to do. Has that required you to sort of move away from a certain type of guy that is just not going to keep up with this new you in this new era?
I think it's more me, honestly.
Okay.
Because I had always been meeting these guys and then instantly just kind of going home with them, and I think not even giving them the chance to maybe even be something more than that. So I think it's more of what you first said, which is like me sort of rethinking and reimagining how I approach it, how I talk to guys, and having certain standards for myself and keeping them, upholding them.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think the problem is not, oh, this type of guy versus that type of guy.
Hmm. Yeah, and just taking the time to get to know them. Who's to
Yeah.
say if you're just like meeting them in a drunk bar situation, going home with them, never talking to them again, you're never giving them the chance to even potentially be something more than that.
So you mentioned your job a couple times.
Hmm.
I know you're in sports journalism. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it's sports. The sports world is new to me. I've had this job now 6 or 7 months. Prior to that, I was in media. I'm still in media. I've always been in social media. So this is sort of a variation of that. It's in sports, and it's working with athletes and content creators and influencers, and um, packaging them, pitching them for branded content campaigns. So it's on sort of the revenue side of a news operation, which is really fun.
That's very cool. And how is it now with like, because I mean, I'm love to hear about a woman in sports journalism. How have things changed with women in sports are definitely having their moment more and more
Yeah.
every year.
Yeah, I think I stepped in at the time that it was all really blowing up, and Caitlin Clark was huge, and the WNBA is, their ratings are through the roof and breaking records, and it's so awesome to see. And it's even better to know like these are athletes I can reach out to and pay them for branded content. We've seen the disparity in the pay gap between what women in the WNBA are making versus the NBA, and et cetera, other comparisons. And so it's really cool to be in this position where you feel like you could kind of change things for the better. And I know I'm one person, and but I see this happening on a wider scale, and it's awesome.
Do you play any sports yourself?
I I am now a member of a pickleball team, which is something that was floated by me from a friend who was like, whatever, even if we suck, it'll be fun. We can meet new people. It's an excuse to get. So I'm entirely working from home now. I'm not going into an office. It's a reason for me to like get out midweek and do something. I leave the house in the morning once to work out. I come home and I'm just at my computer the entire day sitting. So I didn't need an excuse. She could have told me we were playing, badminton or croquet, and I'd be like, whatever, sign me up. As long as it's social. I've always liked social sports for the social side of things. I'm not super competitive. I grew up with two brothers. My oldest brother was like a D1 lacrosse player. My younger brother was awesome at sports too. And I'm like, oh, this is fun. I can meet people. There's socials after the games, and it's fun. It's a good experience.
And have you met anyone interesting via pickleball?
So we are in the very entry level league, and all of the like hardcore guys come in right after we're done, and their league is called the Juicers. We have a lot of fun with that. It sounds very intense. So we joked this week that the next time they come in, we're going to ask them if they need a hand warming up, and we're gonna see where that goes.
Oh,
they're really intense good. Though. Yeah, but like, who doesn't want a helpful hand to help them warm up?
I think that's brilliant.
Yeah.
And if they, so if they're warming up with you, you can build that connection without, playing with them, therefore probably hating them by the end of it, right?
Exactly how I see it. And the coach is in on it too. He showed me one of their Instagrams. So we had a little research too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you yourself aren't that competitive, but is this a trait that you like in a man?
Um, it's so funny because what instantly comes to mind is the Hinge prompt that is entirely overused by every male, which is, "What are you overly competitive about?" To which they respond, "Everything." And it's like, come on. It's I think they get a handbook when they join Hinge that says like, here's the prompt you should pick and here's how you answer it. Because I've seen so many of those. Everything.
Oh my God. Yeah. So you're not into a guy who's competitive about everything, but you're into a guy who
I
is
don't know.
intense and passionate.
It's hard to say, yeah, because I kind of like the
Mm.
fire. I kind of like the
Okay.
passion. It would.
Okay.
I think it would be a. I don't think it's black and white.
And if they can't handle, you know, you winning something
Yes.
and excelling and being better,
Right.
that's a no-no.
No way. You have to be
Yeah.
my cheerleader. You have to be my
Yeah.
biggest fan. You have to laugh at my jokes.
In your graduation process, okay, like if you were to fill out that final exam, Devin, what are you looking for in a partner?
So it's really just it's sense of humor, someone who will really make my world bigger versus smaller, someone who has great friends. I think friends are such a reflection of who you are as an individual. So if I am just getting to know you and I meet your group of friends and they're I don't know, not going to be fun people to hang out with,
Yeah.
then that's something to take note of. I am super close with my family, so I would want someone who has that same. If they don't have that with their family now, do they have that desire to see that, to find that elsewhere in my family, in a family that we would maybe create together? Someone who just loves family.
Great. And then as far as like, because I know, I've talked to a few people who they have a lot in common with someone in terms of their values, and loving family, loving friends, but then there was just like two different ideas of the pace of the relationship in terms of like one wanted to do all these things with their partner and the other more of a homebody and just like to kind of stay close to loved ones and stay home for the
Mm-hmm.
most part. Where do you fall in that?
I like a good combination. I I have a pretty active social life where I just like to get out and do things, play pickleball. Tonight I'm going to a concert. I just like to plan things, to do things. I love to go out and try new restaurants. I'm a foodie. So I personally like to get out, but I don't need every single second of my life scheduled. During the week, I'm kind of just like working out, playing pickleball one day a week. It's very chill. So I like a combination. I think I don't think I could date someone who's like, I never want to go out, or someone who doesn't do the work of like wanting to plan things and have that desire. I think sometimes I see these situations where it's one or the other with couples. Like there's one person who is always the planner. And I think if I felt like I was constantly planning for two people, it would take the fun out of planning for me.
For sure.
I would want someone who sort of meets me halfway on that and wants to do those things too. That I don't feel like I'm dragging out of the house.
Yes. No, totally. I think that is such a great indicator of a mature man.
Yeah.
Is can he actually coordinate an event for the two of you?
And like the bar is low. All you got to do is make a dinner reservation.
Yeah. It's funny how they're so diligent about planning in the beginning.
Yeah.
Before they've met their objectives.
Right. Or planning a golf outing with their friend. If you can figure that out.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can figure out a dinner reservation.
That's such a good sign. Yeah.
Yeah. And I also, I say all that and there are certain nights where I would be just as happy like binging Netflix and staying in. So
sure.
It really is very much this, in between.
Right. What is the last show or what is a show that you're currently binging or the last one you've binged?
The last one I binged was probably Baby Reindeer.
Okay. Okay. I've
Yeah,
heard of
I
this.
love a
Yeah.
good murdery situation. It's funny though, ever since I moved in, I bought a place and I now live alone. Before I rented, I always had roommates. I'm
Congrats.
more of a baby now that I live alone. And I
Okay.
can't watch that Dateline-y stuff as much as I used to, or I have to pick the exact right moment. It can't be like before bed because then I'll have,
Yeah.
night terrors.
Yeah.
So I'm a little bit more sensitive to that stuff. But yeah, that's probably the last show I binged. That was a good one.
Baby reindeer. Okay.
Hmm.
And are you into like the reality dating shows at all? Like The Bachelor?
I love
Love it.
trash
What
TV.
is it? Yeah.
Yeah, I love trash TV in general. I'm a huge
Okay.
Bravo fan. I watch every Bravo show.
Yeah.
When I found out the Golden Bachelor was happening, I was like, "Oh, that's so awesome that they're just highlighting this demographic, this age that you don't see in dating shows ever." And I think that's so cool. And then so I try to watch that, and I'm like, "No, I still can't do
Same.
it. I still can't do
Yeah.
it." But I did want to submit my mom for that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, let's interview your mom here.
Yes,
You
yes, you
know,
should. She's also
let's do
single.
it.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go.
And yep, both eligible.
Yeah. Um, hey, I actually, I actually, we had a guest who is, a phenomenal woman, divorced, has grown children. Um, and it was really fun talking to her
Yeah,
because, like, in a way, to use the graduation analogy, she's had to graduate a couple times.
totally. And it's funny too having this shared experience with your mom where you're both swiping on apps. Like I
Oh,
signed
wow.
her up on Bumble. She
Yeah.
bumbles all the time. She complains about, the quality, I would say, of the volume of people within her, radius and in her age range. But she's on it, and it's funny to just be at that same at that same point stage of life with your mom,
Yeah.
where you're both like single and going out on dates, and she'll call me and tell me about, like, she called me the other day and was like, "Oh, I had a coffee date, I just couldn't do it. Is it wrong of me that I was looking at his teeth the whole time, and he had this really really thick Boston accent?" And I was like, "No, it's not wrong of you if you're not,
Oh,
finding him attractive on a coffee date. I don't know that you would move past that, be able to. It starts there."
yeah. That's so funny. Also, you nailed that accent. What kind of accent was that?
Did I try to do that?
So I used to live in Boston, moved back to my hometown, Chicago, and I always thought, and just having so many friends in Boston,
Mm-hmm.
it does seem to me like it is a little bit more inhospitable to single people
Yep.
after like postgraduate single
Yep.
people. But I want to hear your take on that.
No, I would agree with that. I also think Boston is such a deeply rooted city. You have people who have been here all their lives. My friends from growing up, all of them are probably fall within that camp where, they went to middle school, high school here, they stayed in this area for college, and now they moved back to our hometown. And it's this very sort of formulaic, like, it's just this expectation. It's you wouldn't think of moving or going anywhere else.
Mm.
Um, and I think part of that is what I love so much about Boston, that Bostonians just have so much pride and passion about their city and their sports teams and their culture. But I do think that can make it sort of this unfriendly place for people to move into. And it can start to feel sometimes like this whole, like, no new friends kind of mantra where it's harder to make friends, it's harder to meet people.
Yeah.
I actively try to do the opposite, where I want to make sure that I have friends of all different ages, multi-generational friendships, and types of people, and people who have kids and people who don't. And I still am and I'm one of those single people who also loves hanging out with couples. It's so funny
Yeah.
because I think all my coupled friends think, like, oh, when Devin comes home and wants to hang out, it's a girls' night. It's like, and I'm like, wait, but I love your husbands. And if we follow this, then I'll never get to see your husbands, and they're all awesome. Um, But I think they like to, I mean, they hang out with their husbands all the time. So I get it. They're probably like, cool, if we have to use you as an excuse to escape our kids and
Devin
our husbands,
insisted we
listen.
hang out alone.
Yeah. I'm like, listen, blame it on me, whatever you got to
Yeah.
do.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think Boston can be tough in that way. And the same point on the dating front, I think what's really fascinating to me with dating apps is what happens when you travel to another place and you change your location. It's this window to another culture before you even get there. And to the point where I feel like even if I was married, I would just like love to still swipe through and be like, what are the people of Austin, Texas like?
Sure.
Not even for dating purposes at that point. But to take note of sort of the habits and the things that you see in prompts in writing and in their photos. I find that when I switch my location to anywhere outside of Boston, I get flooded with messages.
Wow.
Boston guys don't reach out. I don't know if it's like this like shyness or entitlement or what it is, but they don't approach.
Wow.
Not that they have to. I think that anyone can be starting a conversation, but it's so interesting how night and day it is when you change your location.
Boston guys, why don't you approach women?
I know.
That's
It's a
so
pattern.
interesting. What
Yeah.
do you remember the cities where you had more success and more sort of like I don't want to say aggressive, but
Yeah.
more forward men?
I'm trying to think of the recent places. I mean, even just on this isn't even a big location difference, and you would think it's not a big demographic difference, but even just moving my location to Nantucket. Island people are friendly. But I'm thinking also like I'm thinking Austin is an example that I saw. Charleston, I remember changing my location when I had a friend who was living there and I went to visit her. It's honestly everywhere. Yeah, I think geography plays a huge role in dating. And I have these conversations with my friend from New York all the time where I say like when I'm in New York or when I'm on an app like Raya where it's you get people from all over, there's so much in New York. It just feels like there's so many more options. It's a bigger place. It just feels like naturally, it would be a better scene for dating. And I know of two friends who separately moved to New York and within months had a boyfriend. And I'm like, if it's that easy, I'll get on a plane right now. I work remote. There's nothing tying me except for my cute nephews to the area. I would miss them.
Sure.
But a place as close as New York, I do think that there is this theory of like importing where you import sort of like fine wines and fine cheeses. Those are from right outside of your door.
Oh my God.
Good things come from faraway places too. So
That's
can you
hilarious.
do the same thing with a guy where you match maybe, or you meet them when you're traveling and then you have such a bond and they just naturally want to come move to you and set up shop.
Would you move for a promising relationship?
I think yes, but then I just always come back to my family and how close we are, how close I am with my brothers and my nephews and my mom. But I think if it were a location that wasn't too far away or too hard to get to, from Boston and pretty accessible in that way, yeah.
Say there is someone who was very promising and things are progressing and you were able to see each other every so often because he lives, a 2-hour train ride away. Like, to me, that is the ideal scenario.
A dream.
But, right? Okay.
An actual dream.
So you're into that. Yeah.
You're not living up my ass every second. That's a dream.
Yeah.
An actual dream.
Okay. So, but for now, you're focused on dating, hopefully in Boston, New England area. What are some of your go-to spots that you like for first dates or even just like meeting up with a friend?
Yeah. I think now what has this trend that has been moving to the city is these places that are centered around an activity, but then also a bar. Because the same old can get boring when you feel like you are always just automatically going to a restaurant, or you're always going to a bar on a date or to meet friends. Now there's like, pickleball bars, and there's an F1 arcade that just opened up here. There's darts, a dart bar. There's like axe throwing. There's a ping pong bar just opened up. This is all in, like, Boston's not that huge. This is all in like a very close sort of radius of each other. And it's just such a theme and such a trend that I like, because when you have this sort of shared activity, there's not as much pressure on the conversation when you can be doing something at the same time. And so I've started to really like that form of activity as something new and refreshing.
What about for like a nice, say it's like your 4th, 5th date and you want to go somewhere nice? Any restaurants you like?
Yeah, there's so many good restaurants in the area. I think I like the ones that are feel a little bit more local and native, and less like white tablecloth, less like chain restaurant, steakhouse, something that has a vibe and an ambiance, a place that has a good bar, so that if it is dinner, you have a place to go immediately. Like, you're not wondering, oh, where do we go next? What's a place that won't be crowded? How do we get there? You don't have to worry about the logistics. You can quickly sort of like migrate to a bar. Yeah, I think it's all about places that have, I always joke that have a vibe. And I always joke that my ideal title would be Chief Vibe Officer for like a brand, a restaurant, whatever. The possibilities are endless, because everything needs a vibe. Yeah. But when you walk into a place and you're like, playlist, lighting, and you're like making all these edits in your mind, like that's a Chief Vibe Officer right there.
That's the vibe that if I'm the CVO, and you need to turn that down.
Yes.
Yeah. I wish more places had it. I'm sure if you offered the service for free, everyone would take it.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
You're
like, let me just run all the edits that I have playing as a track in my mind by you without offending you.
Yeah, I love it. All right, so Devin, I'm going to ask you just some like wild card questions here.
Love it.
Are you into astrology? As in, do you know your sign, and do you think you have the traits of that sign?
Yes, I think astrology is so fun. I also think it's really fun once you learn your friend's signs, or the sign of someone that you're like dating or crushing on, and then going back to the drawing board and be like, would we be compatible? Would the stars say we're compatible? Something that's really funny is that my friends and I have started sending each other astrology TikToks and being like, haha, yours says this, yours says that. And now my entire FYP on TikTok is like astrology, and some of them are, all of them are cheesy, but I love that cheesiness. I myself am a Leo, which I think tracks. They are like, they're lions, so they're protective of like their people. And I'm like such a cheerleader dance mom for my friends. I slide into their DMs and cheer them on. That's me. I would rather like push my friends into the limelight than myself. So I think that part tracks. It is funny though. I feel like the deeper you get into a sign, the more you embody those sort of traits that come along with a sign. So I'm an early Leo. Okay. And I think the deeper you go into like the August Leos, I think where they're more like saturated in the sign and in their traits, I think those come out a little bit deeper.
Interesting.
But yeah, I totally a Leo. All the things that come with it. Yeah.
I love it. And it's so funny. Like, no, the little I know about astrology, I would say like, yeah, that does track for you.
And it's what's so funny when we send each other these videos is that it's always so complimentary of the Leo. And I'm like, I'm telling you guys, all of these accounts are run by Leos. Like, I would be willing to bet.
every person I know who is a Leo, which is like late July,
Yeah.
August birthdays,
Yep.
is an incredible person. So,
Oh, yeah, they're the
yeah,
best. My friend is
absolutely.
pregnant right now, and I'm like, just hold the baby until all you have to wait for is July 23rd,
Stop
and
it.
then you're good.
Oh my God. Wow. I love it.
She's like, it needs to be a Leo. I want it to be just like you. It's the cutest thing ever.
So what's the sign that makes sense to be Leo's partner?
Compatibility wise, I've seen a lot of different things. I think most of it's probably hogwash. I've read Cancers and Libras, I
Mm-hmm.
think, for the most part.
Okay.
Leos are fire signs, so I think naturally you're probably not going to pair well with someone else who's really fiery and passionate. So those are the two that I've seen, and those friendship wise track. I've loved every Libra, every Cancer that I've met, and I have a lot of close people in my life that are one of the two, so that tracks.
Okay. Let's go. Any guys out there, please be 5'8" or taller, let's say. And bonus points if your birthday is in July and September,
Yep.
October.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Please reach out.
June in there. Yep. Slide in. Come through. Pull up.
Come through. Come through. Okay. I got another left field question for you. If you had to choose between going back in time to meet your ancestors and going far into the future to meet your descendants, which would you take? Yeah. And you can take your time, think about it.
I think that I would probably go back because I think history sometimes helps explain the future and helps you understand the future.
Mm-hmm.
Which is the opposite of what you probably thought I was going to say, since I love astrology so much, which is like future forward predictive.
Yeah.
But I think that's it. Because I find myself a lot of the times wishing that I knew more about our family ancestry. On my mom's side, there's this whole like book that they've like passed down through the years, and they keep editing, and I think that's so cool. I have it sitting on my coffee table.
Yeah.
I know less about my dad's side of things, and so I wish that they would have that same sort of a book where they document all these super cool things that get lost if you don't talk about them, or continue telling the next generation about them and telling the stories.
What is as far as you know, what is your family heritage? Have you ever done like a 23andMe or one of those genome testing sites?
No, I want to do a 23andMe.
Okay.
I think they're so fascinating.
Do you have an idea of your family's heritage?
Yeah, my mom's side has a really interesting story. So their family, they owned a plot of land in New York. It was called Coogan's Bluff, and it was just part of the family. And it's just this interesting sort of thing that they didn't really pass down. But I wonder all the time, like, imagine if we had this giant like plot of land in New York, and how cool that would be.
Yeah.
And then my grandma has this really interesting story about like, they had like an oyster business. There's a lot. It's just so cool that you read these things and you're like, wow, that is awesome to think of like what they could have done with it if they kept, or imagine if they kept it in the family, and I could be like CVO of this plot of land or this oyster company. And you start to fantasize about, what your life could have been.
Heiress and CVO of this bluff. I love that.
Exactly. Heiress
wow.
and
So
CVO.
they have some deep roots in this country.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Crazy.
And then like, I think at one point one of them owned like a sugar factory, and they were known for producing sugar. Like it's like cool stuff like that I would love more written word, because I don't trust myself to carry that on. I'm even butchering it now. It's so much cooler than that. So to have it in a book form, I think is awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
That is really cool. Okay. So you'd go back, you'd meet your ancestors. What would you want to ask them?
Um, Good question.
Mm-hmm.
Probably their role models. Um, I would love to understand, to hear like the POV or the dynamics of women in that particular
Mm-hmm.
era. Any things that they felt like they had to leave on the table because they were women and they couldn't pursue them and they didn't have the same sort of opportunity that women now do. Um, yeah. Anything that would any words of wisdom that I could carry with me to present day, things like that.
Okay, so did you ever watch Friends growing up?
I did. I dabbled in Friends. I'm definitely not as
Okay.
much of a hardcore Friends person as some of my friends, but I'll do my best to make
Okay.
them proud.
I always just like to ask, like, if you could go on a date with Ross, Chandler, or Joey, which would you pick?
I think Joey's my type, like right off the bat. He's so
Okay,
funny. Yeah.
nice.
I just want someone who can like make me laugh. So,
Someone to make you laugh. Love it.
and I think the other two are funny in their own right, but I think he's like my brand of funny. He's like outwardly funny and just has no problem clowning himself for the greater good.
Yeah, because like Chandler is also funny, but you're more into the kind of like innocent, goofy kind of humor.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
that's
Completely
that's
harmless. Yeah.
important. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like Chandler is funny in more of an ironic sense because he's
Mm-hmm.
like a little bit more neurotic and you can laugh at that. Whereas I feel like Joey is like intentionally outwardly funny.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good. I love it. I love that question. Okay. Um, okay. If you are stranded on a deserted island
Mm-hmm.
and had just one book that you were allowed to bring with you on this fateful journey that led you here, what would you want it to be?
Oh my gosh, that's so hard. It's so funny because I feel like if you look, I moved into this place and it has a ton of built-ins, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I was always such a renter, and I had to just naturally keep so few things because I would move every year or two, and now I have to fill this bookshelf and the pressure, and everyone's going to be looking at the titles you have, and
Oh, for
you know
sure.
what's your brand of book and what do you read and what does it say about you, and you know there's like an elitism to it. There is no elitism to mine. It's like anything from self-help books like the Four Agreements to
Love that one.
like Rich Dad Poor Dad financial
Mm,
books to like female comedians. I have a lot of those books.
awesome.
So it really ranges, and I actually don't know if I could pick like just one.
Just one. Yeah.
Yeah, is that a
It'd be
terrible
like
answer?
how to get off an island if you're
Yeah,
stranded for dummies.
I would start writing my own because I would be that bored.
Oh, there. I like this. So it would be an
Yeah.
empty, for you, it would be a book of empty pages with
Yep.
hopefully a writing instrument,
Yes.
and you would write your own. I
I
love
would write
that
my own.
answer. Also, I definitely love, like, when I'm going to someone's house for the first time, I love scoping out their books, their
Yes.
book collection.
Yes. I
Yeah.
do that. I do
Yeah.
that, or I go straight to the refrigerator and I open that in like this weird, because we grew up on like MTV Cribs where like that's the first thing, the cameras went straight
Oh,
to the
yeah.
fridge, they opened it up. How organized are you? What do you eat? How many fluids do you have? Like at my desk at any given moment, I have like a seltzer, I have a water, I have a coffee. Like I like options when it comes to fluids, and I like volume. So do you have that in your fridge? Are you healthy? Are you not healthy? Do you have things that you kind of want to hide because they're like junk food and they're at like the back of the fridge?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, would you like to hear a funny story about this?
Yes.
Okay. So I never thought to look inside someone's fridge, but I
Because you're
was.
normal.
Well, no, but because it's just like if I'm coming to your house for the first time, if you
Oh
open the
yeah, you
fridge.
can. Oh yeah, don't do this with like a first date or a person you're
Oh,
just meeting.
okay.
Yes.
Yes, don't open someone's fridge without their permission the first time around. I had met a gentleman in New York City. This was like I was in my 20s, and he was a little older, very handsome, and he's like, I live around the corner, and this is the West Village,
Yeah.
So he has this like gorgeous apartment, but like looks like a mad genius's apartment kind of thing, like very
Okay.
disheveled, but like with like nice leather accents, accent furniture. So he's like, okay, would you like a glass of champagne? And I was like, okay, sure. So he opens the fridge. There is nothing in there, nothing but for one bottle of champagne. And that freaked me out. He had this like huge stereo system, but just with like a CD player, and he actually popped a CD into the CD player and had a huge collection of CDs. There was a surfboard in there. And my friends were like, yeah, dude, like he probably is like a family in Connecticut, and this is his fuck apartment, they called it.
Yes.
Or he's a vampire, because that's a possibility.
I think that theory tracks, not the vampire one, the other one. I take it that didn't go anywhere.
No, I mean, I was just in New York for the weekend. It was one of those. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I always like to close out with this question, or some form of it, which is, what are some red flags that you notice that you would just say, like, this is a non-negotiable? And
I have a super low tolerance for people who are rude to wait staff. And I think that's one of those things that's easy to pick up on in a dating environment. You can just instantly see that, and in a good way, that it's something that you can detect in that setting.
What is a pink flag? It's not quite
a red flag.
Do I know what a
pink flag is?
So this is something our host Coco made up. She asks every guest, give me a red flag, pink flag, green flag for someone else, and then she has them say a red flag, pink flag, green flag for them, for themselves. So
your friends say a lot about you. There's sort of this indication of who you are as a person, and I think if you have friends that don't challenge you, aren't constantly, the same thing goes for a partner, wanting more from you and to be better and helping you and pumping you up and hyping you. I think if the friends are this sort of pink flag in a way that you don't really understand, then you might not understand the person that you're dating as well as you think.
Wow. So wise.
So I think that could be one.
Yeah.
I think a green flag for me is a guy who goes to therapy. I think that is such a turn on. Same line of thought is like a guy who's just like a great communicator.
Great.
Really like witty texter, likes to be in contact, but not too much, is able to like toe that line, I think. Another green flag.
Love that. So we'll close it out with any red, pink, or green flags for you.
I think a red flag for me is that I turn every phrase into a song and I'll just start singing. That could be so annoying.
That's a green flag.
I don't know. Be careful. I would put that in the red flag. Yeah, someone says a word and I instantly like erupt in like a line of a song, and it's just like, it's weird how quick it is. Okay, I think that's pink. I think red I think my independence could be this sort of blocker barrier to inviting someone into my space full time, forever, for life.
Yeah.
And
forever.
Even as I say it, it sounds scary. So I think, my independence, me thinking like it's this like great attribute and really cool thing, and actually could be the thing that's might be preventing me from getting close to people, to a partner, potential partner.
Like it could serve as a wall.
Yeah, exactly.
Between you and someone. Okay.
Yeah. Green flag? I don't know. Oh gosh. I don't know. I guess just that like if I found the right person, would have like all the love to give to this other person. And in the same way I hype up and pump up my friends, would do the same for this person. So I think, if you take the time to crack me, then it'll pay off, I swear.
It's like a chocolate bunny or what they
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I love it. You seem very generous of spirit to me, just the fact that you sat down with me and opened up says a lot. So I think you're not giving yourself enough credit there. Everyone, that was Devin from Boston. She's amazing. She's a Leo. She's 5'10". Okay. If you know anyone who would be great for Devin, just to have a cup of coffee or something, or if you yourself would like to get to know her, please email us at hello@eligiblein.com. Again, that's hello@eligiblein.com. And of course, if you have a friend or family member you would like to nominate, please go to eligiblein.com. Devin, thank you so much. This was a blast. You are hilarious. I laughed a lot. And I would actually love to have you on in the future.
Yes.
See how you're doing.
Yeah. We can do that check-in. I'll let you know how I am post-graduation ceremony.
Yeah, please.
Thanks for listening to Eligible In, a production of Eligible In Media. Our theme song is by Monster Rally. If you see someone you like on our show, or if you would like to nominate yourself or someone you love to be interviewed by us, please visit us at eligiblein.com for more information, including a link to subscribe to our newsletter, where you can stay up to date on our newest episodes, as well as exclusive features of our eligible people.
Lovely.